single income living. So there's a big topic over here. I want to kind of get everyone's feedback on this. So this is from Bailey, who's from Utah, northern Utah. And Bailey says, in the future, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years, I am planning on moving to Hawaii. I would be going by myself. I would love advice on living there with one income. Thank you. So I think what I wanted to do today is to leverage on this because I came here completely by myself. Didn't know a soul when I landed on Oahu. Scott, you also came here somewhat by yourself, but you have family on the Big Island. Heidi, you kind of came here by yourself in a way. Dylan, I guess you were born here, so you're outside this conversation, but I want to hear some feedback. So, what kind of what would you say to Bailey? What kind of based on your experience and Heidi, let's have you start with this. Just based on your experience, what kind of advice would you give to Bailey, who's going about it alone? What kind of advice would you give to Bailey?
Well, I mean, everybody's so different as far as what you need with financial security and a living situation. When I moved to Maui, I mean, I was on my own. I had no job. I did know that I would be able to afford at least very modest housing for the next 6 months to a year. I did buy a car when I moved over. It didn't really make sense for me to ship my car because you're spending a lot shipping it. So I think I found my first car on Craigslist, and it was what's known as a Maui Cruiser, which is just, an inexpensive car to drive around the island. And then
AKA a beater.
I was able to enjoy about 6 weeks of vacation, early retirement, and then I had to go out and get a job. And I guess I had confidence in myself that I was going to go find something. And my first job was actually working at an art gallery where I sold antique maps. And it was not a high paying job, but it was pretty fun. And just went from there.
So what would be if you were to summarize, what would be the headline as far as what's the headline thing, the one thing that you would kind of give Bailey as far as the advice of moving to Hawaii by themselves?
Well, I mean, I can only speak from my experience and being able to pay for a place to live. And the first place I lived was very modest, but I could easily afford it. And you do need a car to drive around. I mean, those are the basics. And then food is food. I mean, there's not too much else you need. But I mean, I'm not sure if you have a job you're moving with and working remotely, or if you're getting a job.
Everyone's different.
I mean,
everyone's different.
So that's kind of different. I mean, when I made the move, I was pretty conservative about what I was spending because I wanted to, just make sure I liked it here and get used to my lifestyle. So I pretty much just found a really affordable place to start out, and that worked well for me.
Scott, what's your take? You came here by yourself, but you've got family here, right? You have family on the Big Island. How does your story unfold, and what advice do you have for Bailey?
I mean, I ended up with a beater here too as well, and I actually loved it. I had this teeny little Nissan pickup truck that was covered in dirt, dust. It had dings, scratches, the whole 9 yards. I ended up collecting sand from pretty much every beach on the Big Island because, wherever I would go, I didn't care. I'd get into the car with my feet all sandy and stuff, and you could see through the floorboards. But I loved it because you didn't really care. It was more about the beach vibe and being relaxed and laid back. And I'll never forget Big Wave David, the seafood bar. I locked my keys in the car one day. He goes, "Kid, you could leave that thing running with a full tank of gas and the windows rolled down and nobody's going to steal that thing." So, I mean, the beater is definitely a great way to go because, you can have a lot of fun and enjoy Hawaii. But the biggest advice I'd probably say is get involved in the community because we are so distant from the mainland. You are going to be further away from family, totally different culture, different environments, as close to living in another country as you can get without getting outside the U.S. So a big part of it is establishing friends, getting into the community and establishing that connection of people that can be a good support system for you. That's probably one of the biggest things I would say, and it's going to lead to more happiness while you're here and some of that adjustment that it's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great piece of advice. Community is everything because Hawaii is all about the connections over here. I've got my comments, but I'm going to let Dylan. Is there anything that you want to throw on this, coming from whatever perspective that you got? What advice would you give to Billy? Because I'm sure a lot of people have asked you for advice and you've given it. What do you say?
Well, I would kind of summarize. I think what Heidi said was, if you're going to come here as a single person on a single income, well, it depends on your income, but you have to expect to live that lifestyle, right? I mean, that's the thing, is people come here with unrealistic expectations, like they're going to get a 3-bedroom house and a great car and have a lot of money to go out and eat and all that kind of stuff. And if that's your expectation, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're willing to live a modest lifestyle and keep your costs low, it's doable. But I can also say that my wife over the years has had plenty of teacher friends who come here, 25 years old, out of college, Teach for America type situations, where they come out to a rural school, and it ends up being really hard for them to make it, because teachers, I mean, they don't get paid great, but they don't get paid terrible in Hawaii. But even on a $50,000 a year income, it can be a stretch to make it on your own here. So definitely plan to live simply.
Plan to live simply. Yeah, that's a good one. What I would add on to that is I had 6 months worth of savings when I came out here, and that's kind of what saved me. I came all the way to the end, but with those savings, but that did sort of save me. I remember, never forget, I was sitting in my studio and I was doing my calculus. Okay, I'm spending this much on food, this much on rent. Okay, divided by the money I've got left in my bank account. The answer came back, 4.5. It's like, oh my God, I got 4.5 months to go. So that definitely helps. But I would, yeah. Excellent. Thanks for everyone's feedback. And to the point of